right, we're live. Hello, everybody. This is Getting the Lowdown with Lopez, and I'm here today with somebody really cool. I'm super excited for him to be here. This is Michael Paris, and so we got to talking just a little bit. And you're a radio host, you're a journalist, you are a traveler. I mean, are there things that you don't do?
Well, yeah, I mean, but you throw on titles here and there, but that's the thing about being in these industries is that you want to stay as focused as you can, but be completely open for where the tide takes you. And you can start off one day as being a guy in your basement coding, and then the next thing you know, you're working with public figures, singers, and actors, representing them online. So, yeah, that is part of the journey, and you don't want to hold on to a title for too long, but it really depends on your mindset.
Can you name drop some of the people that you've worked with?
Yeah, so the super famous people, you obviously wouldn't, they don't need my services. But some of the people I've worked for were Ryan Serhant from $1 Million Listing. So he's a pretty big figure. Lots of mainly singers and actors who are upcoming, who are getting themselves on Spotify and who needs stronger recognition. Those are the kind of people that I usually work with.
I have been trying to get into Spotify. I was actually invited through Handshake to do like one of their marketing breakout tracks. But and I also had an interview with SiriusXM, but I just got my rejection letter. So I'm going to keep trying, though, because...
Yeah, you keep trying.
That's all I can do.
You only need to work 25% of the time, and you just brute force your way through everything.
Yeah, definitely. I've been working pretty hard. But with the whole COVID situation, that kind of has... like, you're not really doing a radio hosting like right now. Right. You were a couple months ago. How did that happen? Did somebody just tell you like don't come in anymore, or how did that like work out?
Right. So first thing, by the way, I don't know if you realize, but your earrings are hitting your microphone. It sounds like there's fireworks behind me, but that's okay. It's fine with me.
I'm gonna take them off.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Our environment is ever changing, and it's really quick. We don't need to get fixated when certain plans didn't work out. So, I was really looking forward to completely jumping into the radio station. And it's not that they kicked me out. It's just they're like, well, no one's coming in. So, and that was okay, because this is what it means to be in the tech industry or to operate in the digital sphere. It's that your environment is changing so quickly. You have to develop the skills that are malleable and able to adapt quickly. And that's how you survive in these atmospheres. And people, and I don't mean to underplay people's sufferings during this crisis or pandemic, but these are opportunities to me. They're opportunities to stress test my skill sets. They're opportunities for me to realize how quickly I can adapt to something dramatically changing so quickly. Our web development department has practically gone down. And that's almost the best thing that happened, because it completely opened my mental real estate to focus on other pursuits. So we still use all those resources and skill sets, but we harness them in a completely different way. Instead of working with, your B2Bs or your companies, now we're going to individuals, people who are focused on building their name and their brand. And for whatever reason, a lot of those people are looking for services during times like these.
I know, it's crazy. I've definitely been coming out with a lot of content, and I've never had such a creative, like, juices flowing. I mean, I'm starting to do little films, and now I'm working with Atlanta International Fashion Week, and I'm on their PR, their PR marketing team. So I'm just rocking and rolling, and I really don't think, honestly, if COVID never happened, I probably would not even have some of the things that I do have in my life. And it's such a weird thing for me to, say that, but it's crazy.
Some people are locked in the worst schedules for years and years and years and years, and on their own they would never quit their job, just because the pressure of having to find a new job and not knowing how you're going to pay this next month's rent locks you in the worst deals, essentially. And almost like COVID kicked them out of the doors, and now they're saying, hey, look, I have a new job and I actually really like it, and it's struggling the first 2-3 months, but here I am, I'm on a much better path forward, that I can actually see better long-term results. So these, there's always a silver lining in these types of moments, and it's important we focus on those.
That's for sure. And we're going to talk a little bit about just because like barriers and kind of things that have not set you off track, but have been kind of like debilitating, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
You are how old were you when you were kind of diagnosed with ADHD?
I believe I was 9.
You were 9, so okay, so
Since
you're
day one.
yeah, since
Yeah,
day
my
one.
label was slapped on. Yeah.
So how has that kind of like rendered you, or has it not rendered you? Has it actually like helped you kind of like become the person that you are?
So it plays a pivotal role in everything I do. And in fact, it's only in hindsight or in retrospect is that very clear to me. Uh, for the longest time since I've been diagnosed, it's not like I had a frame of reference or anything to compare what normalcy was. But eventually, when I started, developing my own passions, I started, honing in and optimizing on everything I do. And then it started becoming very clear to me where my ADHD was, hurting me and slowing me down. But again, in terms of silver lining, when I used to take Ritalin, at the time it was Ritalin that I was prescribed with, I would turn into a zombie. I mean, I would have just absolutely no mood. I'd be starving. My body's just dying for food, and my brain's like, yeah, you're totally fine. I'd have heart palpitations. I'd feel really cold.
Wow.
Yeah, just really bad symptoms, like just not designed for me at all. But it was kind of like throwing a dart, in the dark, where sometimes it would work and it would work perfectly. And that right there was a silver lining, because I was like, wow, that's what it means to focus. Where it's just like somehow nothing else matters. Somehow those like random thoughts that you can't control, that just, even if they're not taking the front of your mind, they're still occupying your mental real estate at the back of your mind. Just like, oh, what about this tonight? And what about that tomorrow? And when those things just disappeared, I was just like, in 1 hour, I can get done what took me 4 or 5 hours to do before.
Wow.
And from there, I'm like, at least now I have a goalpost, right? And I think, and I guess everyone can relate to this, but we're generally good at things we like, and we're not good, we're not good at things we don't like. But that felt very hyperbolized for me. So whenever I was taking classes in college, if I'd taken computer science and I liked a computer science course, I would just ace it straight through. And if it was a course I didn't like, I'd be writing chicken scrap on my English lit and just giving it in at the end. And from there, at the very early age, I realized it's really good for me to do things my own way, and it's really good for me to do the things that I'm only really enjoying, because I quickly see results and feedback in that domain, and I see none in the others. And eventually, when I started really developing skills on the things I love, then I started expanding outwards, and I started realizing the things that I didn't like, I actually really did like, because I wasn't capable of understanding how applicable they are. So here I am, completely involved and engrossed in domains that I never thought I would be. I thought I would just strictly like to code. Since literally 9 years old, I knew I wanted to become a software engineer.
Okay.
I did.
Awesome.
I really did. In some ways, I wouldn't take credit for that clarity. It's just how those, thoughts fired in my brain. But now I'm looking back, and that's actually one of the last things I love doing. I mean, I look at computer science as being a tool to express myself in science, and I very much love computer science, very, very much. I don't really see myself as a programmer. Okay. And the things that I never liked doing, like writing, I hated writing. In fact, mathematics and writing were the two things I would have to get private tutoring in when I was in elementary school and high school. And those are the two things that I actually excelled in. Specifically mathematics, I ended up majoring in it. And it was just, the whole context of education, the education system was rewarding discipline, organization, coming on time. Eventually, I realized it's about the end result, right? And especially in the business domain, right? You can come with good etiquette, you can come with a tie, just, do all that stuff and follow all the protocols of what it means to have good business etiquette. But at the end of the day, is your client happy, right? Awesome, everything else is really noise. You're delivering a quality product to your client, or you're giving them what they want. And that's the thing that I like to focus on. So, in a way, that sort of mindset, in some abstract sense, has replicated itself in how I operate in every aspect of my life forward. So, in a way, I do attribute my ADHD to a lot of what I've done up until now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, you're like mind blowing me right now.
Because I'm very much focused long term, and I'm working all the time. There is and this is how I work. Like, I'm so focused on giving quality to those around me, to my clients, that I break all the typical barriers of 9 to 5, weekends, weekdays. Sometimes I don't even know what day we are. I don't even know if it's the weekday or the weekend, because it has literally no application to my day to day. So, and in a way, my business partners and the people who I work with are my friends, right? I don't really I have friends from everywhere. Of course, I get along with people, but my friends are people I work with. That's just how it is. Yeah. So people have these constructs and these bins where they put, certain aspects of their life in one and in the other. I really have it all mixed together. So it does come at a cost. It definitely does. But like in life, there's a cost to everything. And sometimes I do wonder if the joke is on me, where I spend so much time planning ahead, where sometimes the things that matter are probably just appreciating the moments in a way that you thought just didn't matter.
I mean, that's awesome that you can understand that, though, honestly, because I mean, I've never been married. I don't have kids. It's easy for me to focus on myself and focus on my career right now. I'm not saying one day I don't ever want that, but I mean, somebody would have to sweep me off my feet for that. You know what I mean? But it's like,
I do cook, but
okay. So what kind of food do you cook? Because we're talking about what your nationality is. So you're Jewish?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Exactly. Parents are Jewish. I'm Jewish.
Okay.
Jewish. Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Holy Land?
I lived in the Holy Land. I lived in Israel for a year. I speak Hebrew too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In fact, the first language I was reading, I believe, was Hebrew before English. So I went to religious school and I come from a family of 9 siblings, the white shirt, black pants style. That was me up until 19.
I honestly, the only Hebrew that I ever kind of picked up on is I love System of a Down. they're good.
The main singer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
What kind of music do you listen to? Because we're kind of getting off the topic, but I kind of
right. Okay. So yeah, this is actually a very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscious of that. So just a background, grew up in Montreal, went to college in New York, California, worked there for a bit. Then I was in Hawaii for just a little bit, and then now I'm situated in Seattle. Now, grew up Jewish, grew up Orthodox Jewish. I would say I'm culturally very Jewish. I'm not the best practicing Jew. That goes without saying. And what was your last question? Answer your initial one. I didn't want too many questions to go by.
See, I have a little ADHD in me, I swear.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about your travels. I definitely want to talk about all the cool places that you've been to, but with music, just because it's been a big part of my life.
What music do I listen to?
Yeah.
So I used to break dance quite a lot. I used to run a break. If you scroll through my photos, you'll see them. I used to run a dance club in my college. Wow. So I was committed. I used to train 3 hours a day, 3 times a week, just no jokes. Doing everything on one hand. I still do have the core. So I still do when I train, I do handstands and stuff like that. So I do a lot of calisthenics. It's kind of translated from dancing to calisthenics. So at that time, a lot of hip hop. I like hip hop. I like rap. I don't like what we call mumble rappers, whatever you call them, one of the next generation rappers. It makes me feel old now. I don't like what's coming out right now. But I'm a big fan of people like Tupac, Biggie. I like Eminem. Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely love all of those 3. Are you into Logic? Do you like Logic? You listen to him?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many rappers nowadays that I'm like, man, I could get into this because I like the beat, but also I'm like, man, what the hell are you saying? It's so stupid. I don't even know.
You just can't relate, right? And it's just they're talking about slamming bitches and throwing, and I'm okay, cool, and just making money, and I'm just how are you making money? I'm curious. It's I just don't relate to any of this. So
TikTok, I love TikTok. So there's a lot of rappers that are on there that have got their name and they're famous from TikTok, and I'm just oh my god, I'm too old. I don't understand it.
Where we're wired towards things that at least has some process of long-term return or thinking. Now TikTok and everything is just about consuming your attention for the shortest period amount of time. Whatever they can do as cheaply as possible to get your attention for 5 seconds, they'll do. And that's just cultivated a very toxic environment where there's no long-term results. There is no real productivity in the process. And I can't speak for everyone, but I could say that, and I get sucked into it as a person. I'll be on TikTok or Instagram, streaming through the main feed for like 3 hours, just watching videos of people getting knocked out in boxing matches or whatever, right?
So, no, I do it. I'm like on there, because my feed is so crazy. I'm such a out there individual. At times I'll have like spiritual awakening TikTok, I have food TikTok, then I'll have like, I don't even know, conspiracy theories TikTok.
But in a way, we don't have to agree with it. It's just how nature works. If it's what's on TikTok, it's because users and the algorithm is correct. It's because users are demanding that sort of content. So it's more on us to calibrate how we see things to deal with, because it's not about seeing things better than other people. It's not about having a certain degree of depth. It's about being most relatable in the most sense. And this is why even like in my sphere of influence, in my sphere of even schooling, where we had like in our math class, we had a lot of people who were highly intelligent, highly capable of processing information, but they were only going to be as good as their weakest component if they weren't able to relate to those around them. And they were going to work in a cubicle from 9 to 5. And the person who's going to run the show is someone who's better at relating to other people. So I kind of see this as like, the more distant I am for what the average is, and this comes down to my ADHD, because I knew very much I would just hardwire differently. My friends would love to go out and party. I really felt more comfortable just to myself building a computer in my room. And, in a way you can head down this rabbit hole and you're almost isolated. You might have all these good thoughts, you might have all this experience, but you've got to find a way to relate to people and translate that in a way that offers value to those around you. So when I see the fact that I can't relate to people on TikTok, it makes me want to start to head down that direction and say, hey, maybe let's start making stupid videos, or, maybe let me just get into this ecosystem, because perhaps there's something here that I just don't see.
I think that you're a very personable fellow. I mean, you've traveled a lot. So honestly, when I went to travel, I was in Europe for almost like 2 months, and that it got my mind just kind of thinking of how kind of closed-minded other people that had been around me are. And I don't know, I just had a blast. I honestly, if this doesn't work out for whatever reason over here, if I don't get a corporate job, if this podcast doesn't because I mean, people are definitely like tuning in, and I'm on iHeartRadio, I'm on TuneIn, Pandora, Spotify. It's just if it doesn't work out for me, and I get canceled or whatever, there's like this whole thing of canceling these days. I definitely want to just go like backpack and like get off the grid and don't even have social media. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, 2 things to that. I mean, first and foremost, making a podcast takes time. And in terms of finding financial stability through that process, it's very difficult, very, very difficult. What you want to do is leverage these skill sets in other ways. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's just say I'm an artist. I love to draw. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with the artistic domain, there's not much money being made. And, you can get false inspiration by looking at Kanye West, because in truth, you're seeing the only examples that actually worked. For every one Kanye West, there's 100,000 Kanye Wests who just didn't make it. And they might have been talented in their own unique way. The real way to look at it here is, let's just say I'm an artist, I'm a painter, and I'm drawing. What I could do is leverage those skills in a more abstract form and apply it to, let's say, graphic design, and start making banner ads in ways that offer value to people, get a foundation of stability, right? I call it the survival costs. Find a way to get your survival costs out of the way. And then you can use that platform to build your longer term endeavors. Build creating an art studio, selling your art, right? Eventually you'll get there, but you need to have a platform that allows you to journey the process. Same thing with you. You want to become a podcast host. What skills are you carving when you're becoming a really good podcast host? Find a way to take those skills, build a foundation that actually has a very applicable sense of offering value to those around you. While you build those skills, you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're also building your skills internally, and you're going to learn a lot when making podcasts. You're going to learn about social media marketing. You're going to learn how to set up other podcasts. You can do consulting. You can help other people set up podcasts. There's so much you can learn, and you should never you should expand your field of view. And second point, you said you're going to backpack. Why don't you do both?
I was talking about it with Paul, and he was like, man, we should do a traveling podcast. And he's been talking about it. And I'm like, I never even thought about it. I've never even thought about doing voiceovers, and people have been giving me scripts because I'm on Clubhouse. So I'm on there a lot. And
towards that.
Yeah, and now they're monetizing where people, if they're moderators, they can make money off of it. And
Right.
I'm just like, this is the coolest platform I've ever been introduced to. And I'm meeting all these creators, all these people, and it's just like and they have the coolest forums. Like I was in one they were talking, there was 2 doctors on there, and they were talking about like they work with ketamine, and they work with the psychedelic ways of how they're getting people off of opiates and all this other stuff. And I just think it's a crazy forum. But to go on and listen to somebody that's a billionaire and a millionaire, to somebody that's just starting off like me, and being able to talk to other people, like I heard Dane Cook the other night. I got to ask Tiffany Haddish questions. Like, it's just the coolest platform. Like, I love it. I actually didn't know if you were on Clubhouse or not.
I am. I've just been so busy that I haven't been focused too much on it. But I definitely am on Clubhouse. And that's the thing with these social media platforms. Nothing's forever. So you always want to take the wave as far as you can. Initially, Google Ads, right? Google Ads was the best thing. You got incredible return. Then you had a bunch of people flood into it, supply and demand balanced out, and the people who are really benefiting from it are the people with big budgets. Then you move on to Facebook ads. It's a constant process. Now, like where it's at is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you're getting as much return. You constantly want to have exposure to all these platforms. Whichever platform is giving you the most return, you want to triple down all your assets on and your resources on.
That's what I was going to say, because we're live streaming on YouTube right now. But I feel like if I was going to live stream, and I keep trying different things, my next live stream, if I do it on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn is just like growing and growing and growing. I'm pretty sure I would have a lot more viewers. But to me, when I got into this, it was more of like a passion project than it was to make money. But now that I'm getting into it and there's people that are actually listening, I don't know. I feel like I could definitely kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So we'll see. Wish me luck on this journey. But I definitely am looking up to you because you've just been so successful in what you're doing. So talk to me a little bit about what you're working on right now.
So, a few things. We have all these independent services or companies that are subsidiaries of Hexa Web Systems. And now these companies work independently. They operate, independently from one another, but in times they work together to provide more cohesive services. So we've got a web development division where we do full-out websites. We've got a cloud computing division where we set up servers. People host their websites on it. People host their data on it. You name it. Then that's more of the technical stuff. Moving on, we do lots of marketing. So we do lots of cool stuff on Instagram. We do cool stuff on LinkedIn. And then beyond that, we do ads. So people who need Google ads, Facebook ads, we deal with that stuff as well. Moving on from that, we do content writing. So people who need content writing services, we do all sorts of stuff as well. And then as a journalist, I do writing regularly. We also have a PR division. So this is where we, leverage our connections, our network. We even leverage our web development skills and deep and extensive know-how in creating successful websites to go into publication companies, help build them up. And then from there, we help bring their success, and then we build relationships with them as well. So there's lots of avenues that we mix and match our stuff. But right now we work with individual companies. So we do all of their technical stuff. We also work with individual people, artists, public figures, singers, entrepreneurs, you name it. We help them from A to Z. So we deal with their consulting, we deal with their technical infrastructure, then we deal with all their marketing, we deal with their PR, take care of everything for them. So, and now we're completely in the news industry as well. So we're building 3 internal news publications. One of them is Israel Now News, which has a very strong presence on social media, Facebook. We're building Paris Daily, which is more for general American news. And then we're doing so Paris Daily, and then Breaking 9 to 5, which is going to be based on travel and entrepreneurship. I'm also writing a book on Breaking 9 to 5, which actually is nearly done. I mean, it is practical.
Nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
But it's been forever for me just getting all my attention back to it. It's been so busy with the internals of the company, but hopefully that book will be up in the next month. It should have been up a month ago.
Is it okay, so is it going to have some of your traveling stories? Because I kind of want to hear about those.
It's more about it talks about, it's actually more of like a biography of me talking about my childhood. how I transitioned from the process of being just an Orthodox Jewish kid with learning disabilities to running a company. And then I talk about how I operate companies uniquely. So how I go in there and build companies, found them and get them to where they need to be, and then hand them over to Hexa Web Systems, which builds it up from there. But pretty much there is a very unique process of how I go ahead and build these services, how I hire people, how I bring in clients from the outside. And that's kind of translated in the book.
That's awesome. No, man, you're definitely a busy man. I'm like, I'm like doing nothing over here. But podcasting, man, I thought it takes time.
Yeah, I know. I don't entirely agree with that. I'm sure you're doing a lot. I think the trick is just to never stay complacent, and just never feel too satisfied with what you're doing. You always want to be in a place where you have so much to learn from everyone around you. You never want to feel like you're the king in your environment. And it's a weird thing to say, but you don't. You always want to feel like you're behind and you've got to catch up. And it's that pressure that keeps me moving forward. I care about the process, really. I do. I care about how much, it's almost like I remember in college how much I would learn in such a short period of time. Like I would hunker down for a week and just get through the whole course. And that right there was insightful for me. I'm like, whoa, when everything else doesn't matter, I get so much done in such a short period of time. And I really try to emulate that environment as much as I can.
That's awesome. No, man. Okay, so what are the main places that you've been that you had like a profound kind of meaning to your life? Like, so you've been to Jerusalem. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Jerusalem. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jerusalem was an important part of my life. Well, I was in Jerusalem, but I was also in a place called Ashdod. Pretty much, it was my transition from growing up in a very sheltered community, a Jewish Orthodox community. It's kind of where I was no longer around family. I had my own independence. And it made me realize that I likely was living in a bubble for the first, 16, 17 years of my life. It gave me an understanding of what's going on. It gave me confidence to start pursuing my own paths in life. It allowed me to meet friends and it allowed me to operate in a way that if I operated this way in my community, it would be frowned upon. It would be shunned. Even just going out with, the opposite gender was a problem. Like I never really spoke to a girl until I was 18, 19. And realizing, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. And this is completely normal. And it's okay. You don't have to do this Shabbat every day. No one's going to shoot you in the face. Yeah. So that was a huge transition for me. It made me realize that I was just completely, had a yoke on. And it was a great time in my life. I really enjoyed it. I met a ton of people, and I started becoming more myself. So it was good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in that picture, there's a picture of you. I Googled your name, obviously, but there's this picture, and you're like hanging 10. Where were you in that picture? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think you're talking about the one in Hawaii. Yeah. Yes. So that was Stairway to Heaven. That was a grueling 8-hour hike. And we got caught in the absolute worst storm at the very, very, very top. You're so high that you have no idea how high you are. Think of just running up a hill for 8 hours. You're above the clouds. Like it's raining upwards at some point. The weather was so bad. Yeah. So I was actually very concerned because it's not like you have all this walkway. You have this thin slither for hours and hours and hours, and some of it is just purely mud based, and there's no one there. You break a leg, you're done. And
done.
The cliff, no one will find you for hours, like for days, for weeks. So it was raining so bad. Like some of the path was just gone. So we were literally like holding the mud, just moving forward, and we just so scared to fall off the cliff. It was the worst weather for 1 hour, and then it just completely stopped. I didn't make it to the top. I was maybe, you're gonna think I'm exaggerating here. I was maybe 40 feet away from the top.
I don't think you're exaggerating.
I hiked for 8 hours, and I got literally 30 seconds away from the top. I couldn't see it because it was so foggy. But when you get to the top, you see the stairs. So there's two ways to Stairway to Heaven. There's the legal way, which is apparently way more dangerous than the illegal way, which makes no sense to me. But if you take the legal way, when you get to the top, you're still by the stairs. So I never got to the stairs, but I got just a few feet away from them. which is weird. It was so dangerous that we just like, we're heading back down right now. And then when we were like an hour down, the weather got better. And then, and if you look at that photo, there's actually a video there where you start to see where it's getting better, but you see how much rain there is and how crazy it all is. So yeah, Hawaii was just insane. I mean, it's just.
Did you prepare yourself for that? Because when I was in Switzerland, I felt like that I was hiking and stuff. I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm scared. Like, I was really terrified because it's literally like it's like this big, like you go down, you're done for.
You're done. I mean, you're in a different mental mode. Like you're in like a survival instinct, and you're very careful for the most part. But yeah, at some point, like we had to like climb with our hands because the incline was too high, so our feet were no longer useful there. And yeah, at times, like when you're doing it, Like I have to go forward. There's no, it's the person in front of me. Why can't I do it? But like when you think about it after you're done, you're like, okay, that's pretty fucking intense.
Yeah, it's crazy. Who'd you go with? Did you like have like a little crew that you go with?
You meet people.
Okay.
And yeah, so I met tons of people in Hawaii, tons, and everyone's just looking to meet up with people because they want to do stuff together. And I met a crowd of friends, quite a few actually, and we started hiking every day. It was really cool. And then we traveled to different islands. We went to Kauai, we went to Big Island, Nepali coast in Kauai was incredible. And I had my drone with me, so I was having a lot of fun. But
That's fun. Do you surf? Are you a surfer?
No, I'm not. I don't surf.
Have you ever tried to surf?
I don't think so.
Because when I was in Switzerland, since we brought it up, that was only my second time snowboarding, and I'm like, man, I'm really short, so like my equilibrium and everything, I'm like, I could stay and get a groove, but their like beginners course was like I don't even know, it was super advanced, but it was like the most beautiful. I would love to go to Hawaii and go everywhere, and I honestly, that's the coolest part about you to me, is that you can take your work with you and you can travel and do it, wherever. Do you find yourself kind of more having more ideas when you're traveling, or is it like when you're at home?
I kind of oscillate between phases of an internal phase where I hunker down and I'm focused on nothing but creating new skills or honing old ones. And then I kind of go to another phase where I'm very extroverted and I'm out and I'm networking. But there's always like a 70-30 situation here. I'm just swapping the 70s with the 30s. Now, at some point, like Hawaii was super good for me, but it wasn't very conducive to work, especially when you're off of like Oahu Island, where things were just infrastructure.
Like service.
You have no cell phone service. There's no such thing as like going for a hike for 2 hours and coming back. Like you're leaving at 7 a.m., you're coming at 9 p.m. Plus the 6-hour time zone difference with East Coast clients. It made it hard for me to operate effectively in the business realm. So that the vacation style was great, but it's not a place I would stick to Oahu, and I would have a very strict schedule if I want to feel overall great. I hope I don't. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I think.
Okay, cool.
Like I'm just interested in you because you're such a cool person.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm very careful too to only adopt skills that are heavily malleable and aren't constrained by time and location. So I'm not going to develop a skill that requires me to be in a very specific place, right? Okay. Because I don't know how I'm going to use these skills in the future. And I need to know that any skills I do obtain has many degrees of freedom. I can do this with it. I can do that with it. If this doesn't work out, I can easily, I try to reuse everything as much as I can. So, that's why just working with zeros and ones in the virtual realm is really all I need is a connection to the internet, and a reliable one to do what I need to do.
So for like inventors so I came up with this concept, which I'm never going to be able to do it because I'm a broke college student.
You're now?
Yeah, I'm about to graduate from Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi. So I'm excited. Yeah. But So I kind of came up with this concept of, because I always want to help individuals that can't, like the hearing impaired, just because if I couldn't hear music, I don't know what I would have done in the kind of like the darker times that I've had in my life. And I came up with this concept of a handheld like vibration where it'd be like a kind of Morse code, but like you could feel, like people could feel it in their hand. Um, I think it would be such a cool idea, but I don't even know if it's probably out. I mean, I've never heard of it, but
two things to that.
yeah.
So you're like, how can someone who doesn't hear go through the things that I went through and survive it? Because music was just helping me get out of it. But here's also another piece of depth that, you know, you might not be considering, is that for the people who don't hear, they fine tune their other senses in a point where they can appreciate information in a way that you might not be able to.
Yeah.
So this is how, as human beings, we're tenacious and we're very good at adapting and surviving. So if this person who can't hear might find appreciation and beauty and consolation in other areas, that's the first thing. Second thing is, in terms of the specific question, I don't know much about the idea, but from what I'm hearing, that wouldn't necessarily be music, the same kind of music that you're exposed to, right?
Right.
You're not necessarily. It's very complex, right? You're appreciating how the beats work together and all that stuff. But those mechanics won't necessarily translate to a device that's necessarily beating like in Morse code.
Things, and there's this female that does. I think her name is Amber Galagos. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but she signs. Have you ever heard of her? She does like Wiz Khalifa. She's done Wiz Khalifa.
By the way, I know no one from this. Like, I don't know anything about celebrities. Like, I will work with people for weeks before I even know who they are. Like, I mean, I'll do my homework, but like, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes people just throw like public figure names at me as if like I should know who they are, and I'm like, oh, take out my phone. Let's see.
You're I know. I just like, I literally am like, I am so up in the music because she's so interesting. She's a music festival sign language interpreter, but she's done like things with Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Wiz Khalifa. I mean, she's done all sorts of things. So people that go to these festivals that are hearing impaired, they can actually like kind of feel what she's like signing. And I just thought that was so cool.
Right.
But yeah, so
maybe like people, she's saying hearing impaired, but there's still a way for them to map what they're seeing to the feeling. And that's part of the experience. If you take out what they're seeing, it's probably not going to have the same impact.
Right. So like, that's why I would love to have somebody that was hearing impaired, like maybe not fully, deaf, but they can read lips. And I just wonder that, because there's people on Clubhouse that are blind, completely blind, and they're programming and they're doing all these things that they thought could render, them being a creator. And I just think
it's a social media platform. Yeah, that's actually very true. Yeah. And Clubhouse is unique in a way that it's able to give value in a way that Facebook was never able to, and neither was Twitter, and neither was Instagram. It's creating a certain sense of intimacy and connection that's very hard to achieve otherwise. And that just shows that the power of communication, because when you type something, there's a lot of information that's missing. Right? You can say one sentence and it can mean entirely different things.
Oh yeah.
And I think Clubhouse helps just hone in on a very specific interpretation, and it helps people build really good connections. But the cost is you're giving people a much stronger amount of your attention span. Mm-hmm. So it's not easy to be on Clubhouse for 5 hours a day, because you're not getting anything else done, as opposed to me being on Facebook, which I'm probably still not getting much else done when I'm on it. But at least I can kind of like just multitask between the stuff. So it's a cost-benefit trade-off, but people are really liking the benefits of Clubhouse, 100%.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm like very happy that I was bartending. I'm a bartender by trade, but there's a guy that came in there and he was like, I'm a rapper. You haven't heard of me? I was like, no, I'm sorry, I haven't. He's like, have you heard of Clubhouse? I was telling him about my podcast. He's like, I have an invite. Do you want it? I was like, sure. I didn't know anything about it. And then I'm on it way more than he is.
Like, he's got, like, do really, really well on it just by the little I know about you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, right. So you're doing good on that. That's cool. And you're probably meeting, because it's also got this exclusivity factor to it for now, which is also boosting it up, because you're also you're filtering out. You're really talking to just very interesting people on there right from the start. So
yeah,
it's saturated with value at the moment.
It is. I'm hoping it doesn't, like if they go to Android and everyone can have it, I'm hoping it doesn't really change so much.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's only on iPhone. So, I mean, they're working on it right now to get to Android and get to everybody else. But I know a lot of
the low quality people. Oh God, got all the PC users on there. Ugh. They're gonna want to customize it and put Comic Sans as the font. It's just not gonna work out, right?
Hey, I like that font. No, I'm just kidding. I don't ever use that font. I don't. Oh man. It was honestly, you're so cool to talk to. I was kind of nervous because I'm like, man, he's been in like Forbes, I don't know, BuzzFeed, or
just a regular person.
You've been doing all these cool things, and now you're like a super nice guy. And I wish you the best. I mean, you're honestly, it's not like you need it, but
No, I always need it. But yeah, we definitely spoke more than we planned, which is a good thing, because I feel like we can talk for a while.
Yeah, I do too. And definitely, if you ever get back on the radio, shout out my podcast in Seattle.
100%. Yeah. And I know you'll call me out.
Yeah, I know I will, because this is going on Spotify. Well, this is live now, but it's going to take me a while to put it on Spotify, because I'm working with this my friend from Virginia Beach, and she's like in the CBD industry. So I'm trying to figure out how to kind of go about it in a good way and a bad way, because I'm meeting all these people, but I have a professional side and I have a personal side, but I'm not a type of person to kind of put a line through things. Right. I integrate everything, and it might bite me in the ass too, but I don't know. That's just how I've always been. So
to get back to the cost benefit point, everything in life is usually a cost benefit. You just want to, wherever, the cost is not too much and the benefit is something that you appreciate, you go with it. Mixing your personal and business life is costly, but to me, there's lots of benefits. So I do it.
I like that though. I mean, we're vibing. I like it. But thank you actually, so I'm an Islander, and dude, it's taken me a decade to probably finish college, and I don't even know. I'm so excited. Like, I just paid off my car, got this podcast, about to graduate.
You can just do it. You're done. Like,
yeah. I'm excited.
I honestly greatly respect you for going back to school and finishing it up. Very few people do that. It's really hard once you start working to go back to school. It is very, very, very hard. Put yourself back in the mindset of a student is tough.
Yeah, especially when everyone's like a lot younger and better looking. I'm like, man.
You need to take care of. And here you are just going right back to like just the trenches to learn again. I do have respect for that. I understand it's work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot. And I wish you and your girl the best of luck. And I'm so happy that we got to do this. And if you ever want to come back onto the podcast and be like a want to kind of have any of your services that you kind of, said on the podcast, is there a way that they can find you?
Yeah. My social media is just Mikey Perez, MIKEYPERES. It's the same on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. LinkedIn is Michael Perez. That's my full name. And my website is michaelperez.com, breaking9to5.com, perezdaily.com, podcast on michaelperez.com. Yeah, I've got a few websites, but for the most part, you can just type in my name in Google and, some stuff will come up.
Yeah, no, you're definitely on there. I'm like, you need a Wikipedia. I don't think you have a Wikipedia, actually.
I don't think I do either.
I'm going to make one right now. Just kidding.
That's funny.
No, but thank you so much. And definitely go follow him and check us out on Clubhouse if you are on Clubhouse too. Because it's like for the cool people, apparently. So
right, thank you, Paris, on Clubhouse as well.
There you go. I'm gonna go follow you right now, and this has been awesome. Thank you so much.